Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Tuesday, August 12th, 2025, and the Alaska summit is facing big pushback. There are people in the EU and people who are interested parties all across the world, I suppose, who are trying to thwart this whole effort for peace. And we'll see how that all plays out. We'll see on Friday, right? Trump's heading to Alaska to meet with Putin. And well, today he's taking control, federalizing Washington, D.C. So that will be very interesting to watch today. And he says, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. And so I've got video of that later on in the show of Trump federalizing D.C. before he heads off to meet with Putin and end this whole Ukrainian war thing. Because usually world leaders don't meet unless there's something to actually meet about. And so Putin and Trump meeting is a big deal. And so I'm not surprised to see the pushback, and we'll see where it goes. I don't know. Food in the consumer price index has gone up 26% in the last 5 years. And I've noticed the price is going up, but that chocolate cereal stays at the same price, which means it's good for you and you should keep eating it. Of course, I know that's not true. Grok had a glitch yesterday and was banned for a few hours again for invoking, all of the noticing and all that. And so they just shut him down. And what does that say about the rest of us? If X's own proprietary software gets shut down and banned for noticing, how are the rest of us going to get protected if they can't even protect their own property? It's weird. And the government, we have to come back domestically to start the show today. And we're going to start talking about the fires. The government has admitted much faster than I expected them to that, okay, walking in the woods doesn't cause fires, but what if you break your leg? We're not coming to save you if you break your leg. So stay out of the woods still. We should still stay out of the woods due to staffing issues. Our rights depend on government administrative staffing? I don't effing well think so. So there's a lot to get to. Let's get to it. First, here is Table Salt. And she says, holy smoke. And this is a big deal. This is big news because, well, it took them years to back down on COVID. And now everybody's made fun of them so much that the New Brunswick Premier, Susan Holt, feels like she has to go out and say, okay, you guys are right. Walking in the woods doesn't cause a fire. But if you break your leg, man, you're on your own. Here she is, which is unbelievable. Here we go.
Me going for a walk in the woods is going to cause a fire. I can understand why people think that that's ridiculous. But
because it is ridiculous.
The reality is it's not that you might cause a fire. It's that if you're out there walking in the woods and you break your leg, we're not going to come and get you because we have emergency responders that are out focused on a fire that is threatening the lives of New Brunswickers.
So what happens if I break my leg in my house? Are people going to show up then? Because I've seen reports of nobody coming to help me anyway if I break my leg in my house, and it's first responders aren't busy with fires. They're just lined up in front of the hospital waiting to offload the patients who are sitting in the ambulance in various stage of medical emergency. So are you promising that that's not going to be the case? Because it seems like doesn't matter where I break my leg, Susan, nobody's coming to help me. We're on our own is what you're telling us. And she goes on to say, if you go boating, we're busy with a fire.
And if you take your boat out fishing in a pond in Crown Land and you capsize, we're not going to be able to come and help you out because our first responders are focused on an immediate and serious threat to our province. And so it's the possibility of diverting emergency resources away from where they are really
the possibility
needed.
Diverting resources away because you might get stuck if you take a boat onto water in Crown Land. So by the same logic, we're going to just ban alcohol because you might drink and drive. So that's cool. Your rights depend on things that somebody might do at some point in time in the future and us maybe not being able to respond to it. Cool, everybody? That's okay? No, it's absolutely not okay. This is bonkers. Why did they say that you can't go walking in the woods because of fire risk, which obviously walking in the woods without incendiary devices is not a fire risk? Why would they say that if they didn't have any evidence that said that, if that wasn't true? Why would they say that if it wasn't true? And now they're saying, well, of course that's not true. The real reason is people might get in trouble and break their legs and then we won't be able to help them. So you'd stay out of the woods, not for the fires, but because you might break your legs. It's ridiculous. It is on its face ridiculous, and these people should be held accountable for their ridiculousness. They look stupid. Here is history again. Table Salt says, why didn't Canadians need climate lockdowns when they had 12,000 wildfires raging, the highest ever recorded in Canada by far? That was in the summer of 1989. And so that's interesting to me. The whole idea of all of these wildfires happening in 1989 I was a kid in 1989. I was 8 years old. I remember vividly throwing rocks at trash cans at the side of my house because there was a wasp's nest there and it bothered the wasps. And my friend and I would get on our BMX bikes, because those were the cool things in the 1989s, and get on our BMX bikes and ride away up to our other friend's house, because that was the distance at which they stopped chasing us. The bees or whatever they were stopped chasing us. And so I didn't remember anything about forest fires. Now, I was 8 years old, so I mean, no wonder that I don't remember anything about forest fires. And yes, it was a hot summer. We didn't have air conditioning back in the day. So we slept with like a sheet and the windows open, but the windows open just had hot air blowing on us. It was darn hot, I guess. But fires and lockdowns and removal of personal rights weren't on the menu as far as I remember. But I do have a biased memory, as I was very young. But still, it's one of those things where there isn't anything in the microfiche records either. They weren't locking people down back then. My parents weren't talking about lockdowns. We weren't suffering lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And so why now? Why do you think they're doing it now in light of COVID? Zachary says, the government, we're creating the Canada Strong Pass so everyone can easily enjoy our national parks. Also the government, $25,000 fines for walking in the forest. Yes, no, you're not wrong. And they've got this is out of order here. They've got quite the robust block on the stairs going into the woods, right? And then there's these two officers who are sitting there, and it says, warning, extremely dry conditions, fire hazard, and then presumably it warns you from going on a walk or traversing this block on the stairs. But it looks very permanent. Like somebody's come in there with some 2x4s and a lot of very, very robust hardware. This is not like, let's stop people from this dangerous situation for the next couple of days. This seems like you're never going into the woods again. Like, it doesn't seem normal here. Here is Waterfront Mad FX. I don't know. It says, via the Truro police stations, I'm getting that wrong, Truro. The Truro Police Service has increased foot patrols and bike patrols of our wooded and trail areas. Please remain out of all restricted areas, which also include Upper Victoria Park and the Rail Yard Bike Park. So we're banning parks now, everybody, for climate reasons and your safety, comrade. No, I don't think so. Here's Now Canada, and they're going through what New Brunswick's doing. Melissa, in response to Melissa says, New Brunswick basically implemented healthcare lockdowns and fined people $25,000 for potential risk of injury and taking a spot in our healthcare system, but only related to forest injuries. Am I understanding this correctly? Canada is out of control. Unreal. And Now Canada says, New Brunswick lockdown. Here's why and how. Unified public safety leads to militarized public safety. Operation Boil the Frogs slowly. Atlantic provinces have been engaged in joint public safety goals. New Brunswick is run by and staffed by mostly ex-military. Look at their weapons, uniforms, vehicles, and increased police mandates. Fire lockdowns is a psyop. The goal is to be able to have zero resistance to any and all lockdowns, regardless of the excuse or ill-formed logic. Don't break your leg. 1, mix truth with exaggerations and worst-case scenarios. 2, create headlines and publicity with extreme fines, etc. 3, weaponize peace officers for enforcement, so they're not peace officers. 4, create political buzz, us versus them. 5, create fear and hotlines to rat on neighbors. And 6, create more legislation to enforce going forward. I'm sure that when I was a kid, there's an episode of Alvin and the Chipmunks, and I have them all, so I should probably watch them on double speed to find it, is an episode where Theodore gets threatened by Alvin, where snitches get stitches. And I thought, like, that stuck with me. I was like, yeah, man, snitches get stitches. And so I feel like if the Chipmunks knew that in the 80s, how did we forget? Here's Now Canada again. Important unified public safety leads to militarized police. And this is, again, repeating what I've just gone through. He refined the post and he's responding to Susan Holt. I don't think he's wrong. I think that we are in a situation where the problem, reaction, solution, and encouraging people who are on board with the safetyism, like, yes, that's the right thing to do. Ratting on your neighbors keeps us all safe. Your ratting keeps me safe. My ratting keeps you safe, so on and so forth. And people buy into this because they like the idea of being kept safe. But it's not safe. It's a prison, right? Like, sure, you'll be super safe in this prison, and you'll be super safe if only I have the key, right? We'll put you in there and lock you away and make sure nobody can get to you, and you're nice and safe in this prison. And I'd rather have scary, dangerous safety or scary, dangerous danger and real life than risk than safety, right? Safety is not what it is sold as. Mario is responding to Juno News. They're reporting Newfoundland sets $150,000 fines, 6 months jail for breaking woods ban. Newfoundland and Labrador's government is threatening fines of up to $150,000 and 6 months in jail for violating wildfire-related restrictions as 3 major blazes continue to burn. There's the justification. Don't you understand? There's a fire firing. So you need to listen. No. Mario says, violate a wildfire restriction is $150,000 and 6 months in jail. Rob a liquor store, drive on the opposite side of the highway, and kill a family of 4. That's 5.5 months in jail. Canada's broken. Yep. Yes. They are criminalizing your everyday, regular kind of thing. In Newfoundland, you drive around on quads down trails all the time. I was in Deer Lake, and there are people, there's like a quad path aside the road path because everybody drives quads to visit everybody else. And the community is small enough that that's practical. And so it's one of those things where, and like you go on the old rail bed, you go on a whole bunch of other pathways and things like that are tree lined and beautiful. But also in Newfoundland, there are dead trees everywhere. They don't do any forestry management. I have pictures of the last time I was there, which is a couple of years ago now, but just dead trees everywhere. Like I took a picture of the forest and there's just, maybe I should go find it, just dead trees everywhere. It's unbelievable. And so like setting up a situation where bad forest fires are going to happen and then say, you criminals, you might break your legs if you go into the woods, and we won't be able to save you if you break your leg in the woods or whatever. That deserves a $150,000 fine. But like, don't worry about all that liquor store robberies. The taxpayer pays for that and absorbs that. Weird, right? So I find all of these things very, very concerning because what's happening is certainly not for our safety, comrade. But they'll tell us that it is. Michelle, says North Bay, Ontario is quietly spraying the forest with glyphosate. Everyone worried about forest fires okay with this? Don't pretend like you care about the environment if you are okay with this. So the Bay Today is reporting ecological safety concerns grow as glyphosate spraying begins in Northern Ontario. When you walk into a place that's been sprayed, it's dead silent, says university professor who's a Grand River First Nations member. No birds, no insects, just loneliness. Yeah, probably. I don't think the idea of why can we spray glyphosate? Why is that a good idea? Apparently, it's used for certain things. Tucker says it can remove fire-resistant trees like aspen, potentially increasing fire intensity and spread by favoring more flammable conifer species. And then Michelle highlights this. Flammable carriers. Glyphosate is often formulated as a liquid concentrate, and those formulations can contain flammable or combustive solvents or other ingredients. Reaction with metals. Glyphosate can react with certain metals like galvanized steel or unlined steel to produce hydrogen gas, which is flammable and can create a fire hazard. So these people say they've been doing this in BC for a while. It kills fast-growing fire-resistant adler that competes with the conifers they want to harvest. So it's like a paper or toilet paper thing. I don't know. But still, as well as poisoning everything around it. Is there no way to do this without the spraying? We have to spray. We have to do the spraying. Weird, right? Here's Remanded. He's highlighting the wildfire risks in BC, and he says April 1, 2025 to today, wildfires started, 869, hectares burned, 728,000, extinguished wildfires, 776, wildfire determinant and suspected causes, 438, lightning, 404, human, undetermined 27, that's only 3%. Lightning is 50%. Human is 46%. Total wildfires, 20-year average, 1,687. 2025, 869. Active wildfires, 71 from lightning, 16 from humans, undetermined 6. Resources assigned, firefighting personnel, 961. Incident management teams, 2. Aviation, 95. Heavy equipment, 24. Structured protection, 26. Structure protection, 26. Current situation, active wildfires, 93. Started in the last 24 hours, 3. Declared out in the last 24 hours, 3. Declared out in the last 7 days, 134. Stages of control, out of control is 12. That's 13%. Being held is 20. That's 22%. And under control is 61 wildfires, 66%. Right? Does anybody else see that? Does anybody else see that? No? Okay. Status evacuation orders 3, alert 7. This is official government numbers. That's why I'm highlighting this. I don't think the Remanded's putting that in just for fun. So I'm just interested in the official government numbers and that very interesting percentage. Here is Triv Daily, and this is tangentially related to the fires. They're saying the fires are created because of climate change, and I'm I don't think that's the case. It's a lot of arson and a lot of glyphosate and a lot of COVID style pearl clutching in order to justify all of these lockdowns and in order to break down our resolve to say no. But this is tangentially related to climate change because this is untrue, and yet they're pushing this as true. 2 high school football players die in separate tragedies during football practice. The first tragedy is, of course, heat stroke death, which I've never heard of that before. Memphis, 16-year-old Joshua Henderson dies after collapsing at practice. Josh, a 16-year-old football player at Bolton High School, collapsed during practice in the sweltering heat and later died from what is believed to be heat stroke. After fighting for his life in the hospital, Joshua passed away on July 26th due to complications from organ failure brought on by severe heat stroke, his family confirmed. And then another one doesn't mention the cause of death. Atlanta, 15-year-old McKay King dies unexpectedly at practice. Just days earlier in Atlanta, this other McKay King, a 15-year-old student athlete at Arabia Mountains High School in DeKalb County, collapsed and died during football practice. King's family described him as more than just a talented player. They remembered him as a source of joy and leadership. And the next headline is a stark reminder of heat safety in sports. Yes, be wary. Your young, healthy children may die due to the heat. I don't think so. I grew up in the 1980s, man. If we were going to die of heat, it was going to happen then. And I don't remember anybody dying of heat stroke in 1989, as far as I can recall. I had a small circle in 1989, but man, and we played hard outside. Like, it wasn't like we were staying inside. The only cold place in my house was the basement. And it was maybe 5 or 6 degrees cooler than the rest of the house. So like 26 degrees at 32 degrees, that's pretty okay. That's an all right trade. And it was damp too. We had a dehumidifier and you had to run the dehumidifier. Otherwise, it got more damp in the basement. And there's a point where it's colder, like the dampness makes it colder, and then it just gets uncomfortably damp, and it's not better anymore. It's not a good trade anymore. So you have to run the dehumidifier. So we used to go downstairs if it was too hot. But even that, right? Like, no, it wasn't close to enough. The food professor, I don't think this whole push about all of this, heat being a big danger. Sure, heat's a big danger, but I'm pretty sure I've seen people play cricket in India, right? And it's like 42 degrees in India. Like, it's not a balmy or a beautiful 25, right? Like they're not like, oh guys, the temperature's 36 degrees. We got to stop this cricket match, right? Like, I don't think so. And there are other places like Dubai. They play sports in Dubai, right? Is the whole cricket, is the whole sport, football pitch, air conditioned? I don't think it is, right? I don't think that's the truth. So people are playing sports in hot weather and not just passing out and dying, right? But if you do die on the field, don't worry. They'll take you to the hospital and all of a sudden everything will be just fine, right? Hamill, what was his name? No, Lamar Hamill or something like that. The Buffalo player last year. That looked really weird until everything was just fine. Don't ask any questions. Thanks very much. Weird stuff happening, right? Food professor says, moving on, let's talk about trade. He says Canada has counter tariffs on certain products, including Bix pickles. While some Canadians may see this as a way to protect domestic procedures, it also suppresses competition, likely pushing retail prices higher. Brilliant strategy. Anybody bought coffee lately? The food professor continues. He says, here's the weird part. We're tariffing Canadian-made pickles that are jarred in the U.S. by Bix using Canadian lids. In other words, we're taxing our own products on their way back into the country. Dough. We're so dumb. It feels like our leadership are very, very dumb. And it feels bad for me that we can't hold them accountable for being dumb, for saying things like, if you go into the woods and break your leg, then, we can't help you because we're busy fighting this fire. And there may be a shred of truth in that. That may be a plausible thing, but in the grand scope of what's going on, they don't have the support to help everyday regular people anyway. The police arrest people for crimes, and then those same people get released, even of vicious, violent crimes, same day. So it's not even like if you call the police because somebody's broken into your house and you say, you're going to jail, buddy. He's like, okay. And then 20 minutes later, he's back at your door saying, okay, you're going to call the police again? Or if 20 minutes after you think everything's okay, he's back at your door because he's already been released on bail, right? Like, the whole thing is very, very odd. And saying things like, if you want your infrastructure to work, you'll listen to these lockdowns. Not a good sell, lady. Like, the healthcare doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Healthcare, people are dying of waiting lists and things like that. And so in what way do you think that people will be there to help us? The police can't help us. The doctors can't help us. The emergency rooms can't help us. You're going to help us by changing the weather in 100 years? By locking us down in our homes? Really? I mean, get bent, right? Like, how about no? How about absolutely not? The last story. No, we got to say goodbye to the stream. We're already at 20 minutes. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we've got lots more show to go. I would say easily we'll hit an hour today. Sometimes we hit an hour and 10. So if you like the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com.